33-year-old father of two, Keith Porter, was fatally shot just after 10:30 p.m. by an off-duty ICE agent at an apartment complex in Northridge. LAPD said Keith Porter was firing celebratory shots in the air with an AR-15 style rifle. The off-duty agent, who also lives in the apartment complex, heard the gunfire and confronted Porter.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Carr2Carr. I'm Ramon.
And hi, I'm Dana. And today we'll discuss the case of Keith Porter, who was shot by an ICE agent on December 31st. Ramon, what do you think about this shooting?
A lot of thoughts and a few thoughts at the same time. Let me go to my glasses so I can make sure I just make some points that I just want to make sure that I don't forget. To the spectacles. I think the ICE agent really should have called the police. You know, when I think about this situation myself, I'm like, what would I have done if I'm in an apartment building or just staying in a house and I hear somebody discharging their weapon outside, AK-47 handgun or whatever? Would I have involved myself, you know, being off duty? And immediately I say, no, I have to, unless it was like in my backyard or something of that nature, I would just call the police and allow the police to handle it, unless I start hearing some screaming or yelling or something where somebody needs some immediate help. Then I ask myself, is ICE considered law enforcement? And I believe they are. So when I look at this situation, could ICE in fact take action here? And they probably can, because they're considered law enforcement. The only thing is, in today's climate with ICE, when they're doing their job on duty, I would just be careful of them doing things of this nature, especially getting involved in shootings while they're off, because, you know, like I said, the political climate is very ugly right now for ICE agents, and so I would hate this agent to be lawfully doing something and then, in fact, wound up getting himself hurt. Another thought I had was simply, did this ICE agent identify himself as an ICE agent? Did they have on something that said ICE or police or something of that nature? Because we see our own undercover law enforcement officers, police departments have made them wear something that identifies them as a police officer or a member of law enforcement, so that they themselves don't get hurt. So I'll be curious to see what happens in this. Hopefully there was an investigation, because we see a lot of these cases where these shootings are happening with ICE where there's no investigation. And I know, just being in homicide and internal affairs, that, you know, once a police officer gets involved in the shooting, we take a picture of everything they have on. We do a GSR, we take their weapon, we would take a picture of the weapon. So I wonder if, in fact, this happened. And I know that, you know, a lot of the Department of Justice is really pushing back on what you can and can't do with the ICE agents. So I hope that something like that was done, not to cover up anything, but hell, just to protect the ICE agent, you know, to show that, hey, listen, I went out there, I identified myself as a law enforcement officer, a member of ICE. I saw this gentleman with a gun, and I told him to drop it. He didn't drop it, and I discharged my weapon. So I'll be curious to see what ICE's rules of engagement as far as shooting is, you know. So I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered involving ICE in this situation.
I agree, and I echo your concerns about an investigation, because I would hope it's supposed to be standard when you have a shooting, let alone a homicide, that there is an investigation. That's just like standard procedure 101. So the fact that it's not being done, that is not the norm. But as far as ICE agents being involved in this particular shooting, I mean, I've been involved in many New Year's days having to work, and our protocol is after a certain time, you go in and calls are not even dispatched, because there's so much shooting, because it's anticipated. Prior to December 31st, we'll have a press conference and we'll try to tell people, hey, do not shoot. You know, what goes up, the bullets, they come down, they can harm people. And we encourage people not to shoot. But we know every year that people are going to go out and fire their guns in celebratory for the new year. So police and fire during certain times will not respond because of the danger. So for an ICE agent to off duty in the safety of their home to go outside and put themselves in a situation with someone who's possibly shooting, celebratory fire, that's unacceptable in my eyes when you can call the police. Now, because there's a difference between an active shooter and someone actively shooting. So
Agreed.
So an active shooter, somebody that's really going to hunt people down to kill them. And then on December 31st, you have a lot of people actively shooting in celebration for the new year. So I hope an investigation occurs to see if, in fact, he was responding to an active shooter and he was actually preventing his neighbors from being harmed. But if to go and to confront someone who was actively shooting a gun in celebratory for the new year, I think that's just unacceptable in my eyes.
My final thought and question would be, which is going to be a question that's got to be answered, and that is, how does this ICE agent know that in fact the person they shot or they engaged was not a person doing the same thing? Whether if they weren't a police officer, if they weren't an undercover officer or something, trying to protect themselves, their family, or the community. Because we've seen so many times that, where there's shootings that happen by people of other races that have shot people of our race, and they said that they were just good citizens protecting the community.
Yeah.
So how does this ICE agent know that in fact that wasn't the same situation and that gentleman was not trying to protect himself or someone else?
That's a good question, and an investigation will answer that. So hopefully there's an investigation into this shooting to get the answers.
That's all I have.
That's all I have. Thank you for watching another episode of Carr2Carr Podcast. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment. We appreciate the feedback. And
Until next time.
till next time.